What does it mean when a guy says, I'm too much? Whew. I don't understand why he pursued me like crazy, planned out our entire year for us, wanted to meet my dad, told me he saw me in his future, and I could see and feel that he fell in love with me. Then when after 6 months of trying to ask the right questions, make sure this is right for me, I finally reciprocate the feelings, and he says I am too much and it's over. What the fuck? I agree. What the fuck, buddy? I hope you're watching this. This seems to be a repeating pattern. I am left heartbroken after making myself vulnerable, trying to ask all the right questions. I was sure he was not avoidant. Then, as soon as there's intimacy, I realize this motherfucker's avoidant. She didn't actually, I added that for drama. I would have loved to know this beforehand. I thought I asked all the right questions. I took my time. We had hard talks. They went so well. I'm in total shock. It's like the love they wanted scares them and they can't handle it. Please help. I can't keep repeating this pattern, and I want to do whatever work is necessary to get the reciprocal love I deserve, which I am giving to myself. Woo! All right. Well, okay, here's the deal. When you start in relationships, it sounds like you held on a little to vulnerability for 6 months. So, okay, we're gonna just break this down. We'll automatically say this guy is avoidant. That's pretty obvious. This guy, as soon as someone loves him, he's like, whoa, fuck, you love me. I don't love myself. I can't receive your love. But there's a catch here. You waited for him to go first and for him to do that. And then when you finally were vulnerable, after 6 months, then all of a sudden you became too much. So I would, listen, it's not male or female to be avoidant. It's human to be avoidant. But remember, it's more likely that a male will be avoidant for many reasons, shaping of evolution and what we teach men about emotion. Most men shut down. You look at men get circumcised often for no medical reason, only religious reasons. Medical reasons are bullshit. And unless there's actually a medical reason, which there generally isn't till there is. So, we cause men to go into avoidant states, to shut down, to withdraw. I mean, not really invite male emotion, male expression. We call them pussies. We emasculate them. Often, people will say that. I mean, I know a guy whose partner, when he started crying, said, who has the vagina in this relationship? So there's lots of emasculation that can happen. It's not saying it's right or wrong, and there's a different can of worms for the other side of the gender and all the things in between. So it's not a one is more important than the other. My point is that there's a lot of reasons that men are avoidant. I know that was a long answer to that. But here, when we hold on to vulnerability, waiting for someone else to be vulnerable, what happens is we're now not seeing what vulnerability does to them. If you start to love someone and you ask someone some really beautiful questions and you start to share your own emotion, not making sure that they go first, right? That's the trick about vulnerability. That's the trick about love and life is we say, if you go first, I'll go. But you don't lose if you go first. It's okay to go first and then wait for them to come towards. Now, the anxious person wants to take up all the space the avoidant person needs. So we start chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. But ultimately, when you chase people, you don't leave space for them to step into. So there's a lot to learn here, but it sounds like you're doing everything right. I would just say that earlier in the process, you were with them for 6 months. I'm almost certain there's a red flag earlier in this, an avoidance signal. Now, there are people who love bomb early and they share all the things they want and they love all, and they can't wait and blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as there's intimacy, maybe even sex or both, they run. And they run for the hills. And then they'll come up with lots of spiritual language like, oh, I'm just finding myself and there's this, I went to this place and I got my chakras aligned and blah, blah, blah. But it's at the end of the day, it's really like, are their actions and their words lining up? Whenever we say things like, oh, believe actions over words. No, don't. That's anytime there's a disconnect, get curious. It's a red flag. Every time there's a disconnect between actions and words. If you believe actions over words and they're like showing up like a partner and they're saying they don't want a relationship, if you believe actions over words, you're in a trap. You're done. You're done. So this is more about getting curious. Whenever you feel that, get curious. Ask questions. Hey, I noticed this. If someone's avoidant and you just say, hey, I noticed when we get close, it feels like you pull away. Well, if they're avoidant, they're fucking gone. You don't even, just invite those vulnerable questions. So I would just get back to this, and to get back to this, we become too much with people who can't hold us. Now, sometimes though, we are too much. Sometimes, now most people live in the injury that I'm either not enough or too much, or they pivot between the two. Now, people who feel like they're too much, one of the ways that they sort of live in that wound is they overshare. So people who haven't earned their story, they'll give too much too. And so they don't actually allow someone to earn the right to their story. Now what it does is it continues to validate that they're too much. So they pour out way too much information, often their greatest wounds, their greatest traumas on their first date. Like, can you date someone who's like this, who's had this happen? And the other person's like, holy shit, I thought we were getting coffee. I didn't know we were like actually in a deep therapeutic session. So this is about being able to allow who you are to unfold and to believe that people have to earn the right to your story. Just like someone is not just the one when you meet them, they become the one over time. They convince you that they're the one and you do the same. And that's what dating is. But we're in such a rush. We're in a rush because we don't like staying in our own space. Again, though, this question sounds like you did everything pretty well. I would say, though, that you probably missed avoidance earlier on in the process. Either way, there's probably a lot of deliciousness of learning and wisdom in the first 6 months of this dating process. But, when someone disappears or someone's avoidant and they take off, it's so painful not changing that. However, it's also like, let them come back if they want to. I mean, don't let them come back if they haven't earned the right to come back. But my point is like, give them the space. Hey, you do you, boo. I'll be over here living my life. If I meet someone, bye. That's what happens in life. Just don't forget about yourself.